Welcome to Shorty Supercoach, and today we're going to have a look at the fourth week of NAB Challenge and recap that with all things Supercoach. And isn't footy season quickly coming up upon us? It's not far away now. That's exciting for not only the footy, but for Supercoach as well. Now, the weekend reassured us on a few players. We learned a few things. As always, I've got quite a few names down here. Bear with me. The disclaimer is I have been away on holidays. I've been away for the weekend, so I didn't see many games at all. But I've certainly done a bit of research and looked back at a few stats and everything as I always do, and come up with quite a few names. And look, that's the last look we'll get at players, so hopefully we've learnt what we wanted to know from all these games. I think we have learnt quite a bit, no doubt, but this is what I got out of the weekend anyway. Richmond and Port Adelaide kicked us off. And look, it wasn't Richmond's night, no doubt. It was ruled out by their injuries, of course, headlined by Edwards, who was the worst, but Grigg also went down, Conker and Townsend. Now, not all of those are going to be long-term, of course, but they are setbacks and they're going to miss weeks, especially Edwards from all reports. It opens up opportunities, and I think Nathan Broad is a man that could take upon some of that opportunity for sure. Mature age recruit, had the 17 touches, and look, he's had quite a consistent NAB challenge. I think he's probably going to be rolling out of the back line, and look, he may have an opportunity just to get a bit of a game early in the season, and I think he may be pushing for selection regardless of these injuries, but he has done his chances no harm. We can get him nice and cheap in the back line, so keep an eye out for him. Basher Hooley, he's reliable. Racked it up. Is he the next best, most reliable thing in the back line behind Heath Shaw? He had the 27 touches, none of them contested, but look, the Tigers just love to give him the ball, and he uses it very well. So if you're looking for a safe bet in the back line, Hooley just continues to impress, and he could be a very safe bet, I think. Look, as far as Port Adelaide, there are a few players that stood out. Sam Gray. Now, I did have a comment that I don't know why it didn't show up, but I got the email saying in a comment, can you speak about Sam Gray? So I'll spend a little bit of time on him. He had 28 disposals, 5 tackles, a goal, 12 contested. He's got to be considered big time now. If the back end of last year wasn't enough, we got to now. Is he a point of difference? Maybe a few weeks ago he was, but not anymore. I think he's had such a good NAB challenge that everyone's ears have pricked up, and he's being seriously considered. He's had a ripping NAB challenge, and I think he is the real deal now. So, in regards to your question, I think he's a very, very good opportunity, a very good player to have in your side, my bad. He racks the ball up. He probably won't find the tag too often. You'd think that would go to Gray, Wines, or Boak, unless he really catches fire. And look, I think Sam Gray is certainly a player you must be looking at, especially in the forward line. Ollie Wines, Ken Hinkley thinks he's a beast. I absolutely agree. 15 contested possessions says that as well. I heard a few people bag out his disposal efficiency, saying it lets him down. It may well at times, but you'll have those weeks when you win the amount of in-close ball he does. It's much harder to dish it out effectively, but he wins so much of the pill on the inside. Be nice to win him a little bit more on the outside as well, but he's in my team, and I'm loving the look of Ollie Wines at the moment. Matt Lobie, same can't be said for him. He's concerning me a bit. 5 touches at 20% disposal efficiency, 31 hit-outs, had the 5 clangers. 4 of them I think were frees against. But look, there's a bit of concern about him, I think. He's always going to get a few hit-outs. He's a good tackler as well. Could find a bit more of the ball around the ground. I'd have to say he's going to stay on my side. There's such an opportunity for him to score points as a number 1 ruckman at Port Adelaide, and he has runs on the board in the past that may be enough, and he's too cheap to not go for. But having said that, he is a man who I do not think has form on his side at the moment. So we may look to have a bit of a slowish start from him, which could be concerning. But at this point in time, I'm probably going to go with him, but he isn't setting the world on fire, that's for sure. And just finally, sorry with the Tigers, Connor Menenju. Seen a few people with him in their forward lines at 155k. He was not too bad, played alright, played his role, but I think you're probably going to have better options in your forward line, especially having to spend that extra 30,000. So, did his chances no harm, but I don't think I'd be selecting him at this stage. Carlton and Sydney. Swans getting the job done there, but Carlton certainly had some solid players. Nick Graham, 30 touches, but he is so awkwardly priced. He's set the world on fire in these NAB Challenge matches. Can you pay that amount of money? I think it's about 400k in our midfield. You'd be gutsy to pay that sort of amount for a bloke who is untried in one of the worst teams in the league, but he has done his chances no harm. He's an extremely good player, wins his own footy, and he will be considered by some, not by me. Sam Kerridge, he's in my team. He should be in everyone's team. It's as simple as that. He's dominating, 26 touches, 7 clearances, 11 contested, really finding that offensive midfield role. So I like Kerridge big time. Paddy Cripps is an absolute machine. 53% game time he played, but he still managed to have 24 touches, 16 contested, 9 clearances. He's unbelievable. A lot of people have him. I wouldn't be surprised if he averages around that 105, which is good. But I really want 110 from a midfielder if I'm picking him. The reason I've had a few questions about Cripps, and often I'm not overly complimentary on selecting him. I love him as a player, but I just think for that price tag in our midfield, there's more risk associated with him. I'm not saying he can't come out and dominate, because I certainly think he'll have a great season. Will it warrant selection of a 110? Bear in mind, he's still young. He had a breakout season last year, will cop more attention this year, and is in a poor side. So it's worth considering, but gee whiz, he's been unbelievable so far and could be one of the champions of our game. And look, I think that's what a lot of people are thinking, and I've seen a few teams have him in the midfield. So Simpson did what he does, and Wiedering wasn't too bad either. 15 touches, 87% disposal efficiency. Dan Hanbury, 38 touches, 6 tackles, 6 clearances, 15 contested possessions, 10 marks. He even snagged a goal. No surprises there. He's a gun. I can't believe he's floated under the radar for some time, and it takes a NAB Challenge performance like that to pick people's ears up, because he is a gun. He's been slightly inconsistent at times with the tag, but when he's off and running, he is as good as they come and could be a very good pick this season. Lance Franklin had the 20 touches, 3 goals, 1. He's pretty good. He did enough. He's never going to tear NAB Challenge apart. It's more so about getting that touch and the minutes into him, especially what he's been through, but also for a key forward. So I think he did very well, and he's looking to be thereabouts in my team, no doubt. Callum Mills, very impressive, 23 touches. He is that slight bit expensive for my liking, but if he finds a role in that Sydney midfield, he could be a very good pick. I still feel like he'll get pushed out slightly, especially when, say, McVeigh comes back, but that could be enough. It could be enough that he's still that classy and that good at finding the pill that he can make you 150, 200k. So a few players from that game really stood out. Gold Coast and Adelaide. Crows had a pretty decent win there. Aaron Hall, gee whiz, he's in the Sam Gray category. He's just a player that you sort of think about as a small forward, but he's just dominating the midfield. A week or so ago, I would have said, nah, steer clear, midfielders coming back, don't get subdued by that. But now all of a sudden, Gold Coast midfielders are just getting extremely long-term injury is what the word's been going around, that a lot of them won't be back till mid-season. So it opens up a lot of opportunity for a man like Hall. He had 29 touches, and he just keeps getting the job done. You're almost picking between Gray or him. You could almost go both. I personally wouldn't, because they do have that element of risk, but God, their NAB Challenge and pre-season form has been unbelievable. Ryan Davis has to be putting his hand up for round 1, that's for sure. He's a big chance, had 13 touches, 4 tackles, and of course with those injuries, he'll be there and abouts for sure. Matt Rosa, he gave a few frees away, which probably hurt his score, but he had the 22 touches, 10 contested, and he's growing on me as an option in the back line. I don't think I'll be going with him, but I can see why people are looking at him. Cade Kolajasny was omitted from the side with a calf injury. The initial squad he was named, but I haven't read anything about it too much, so I don't think it's that bad. But it's nonetheless, it's a niggle, and look, I think he's got to be a little bit risky at this point in time. Had one good season, doesn't have as many runs on the board, could be an absolute prodigy and dominate, or he could average mid-80s. So big price tag, I'll let you make that call. But he does have that element of risk, as opposed to, say, a man like Hooley, who really is very, very consistent. So interesting picks there. As for the Crows, Sam Jacobs, he's consistent. He does it year in, year out. Is he going to be a point of difference? I haven't seen many sides with him at all. It's all been Goldstein, Lobie, or Martin Goldstein, or even Leuenberg at times. But Jacobs had the 41 hitouts, 18 disposals, and look, he could really hurt some opposition sides in your Supercoach team if you get a hold of him, and he continues to have that sort of 105, 110 average. So very impressive. Seedsman and Brodie Smith did their chances no harm at all. 23 touches, 25 touches respectively, and they both played pretty well. A few rebound 50s. You consider them. I would be steering clear unless there's some real obvious signs that they'll be getting more midfield time than what they have throughout the pre-season. But I think they both are offensive players, and on their day will score some solid points. Rory Laird, he's a man I would absolutely consider. Slight point of difference, I think. It's starting to cotton on now. A few people are really starting to see him and go, gee whiz, this guy's young, backline player, not many people know about him, lock him in. He's another guy who's had a stunning pre-season, had 28 again, I think. He's just racks the ball up, and he'd be a guy I'd definitely consider. Matt Crouch as well. 28 touches again, 12 contested. He is unbelievably well at this contested ball and just finding the pill. It's unbelievable how well he's playing through this pre-season. Brad Crouch, of course, was left out of that game. I'm not sure what he did, but he was disciplined by the club. And look, a lot of people might be getting off the Brad Crouch train and getting on Matt. And I can't blame him because his form has been undeniable. It's been extremely impressive. So Collingwood and the Dogs, Pies came back to have a win there, but Jordan De Goey was extremely impressive. 21 touches, 4 tackles, 6 clearances. I really like him. He's growing on me for sure. I still feel as deep as the Collingwood midfield runs, he has that slight bit of risk about him, but he's so cheap. Toby Green or De Goey, it's a toss of the coin for me at the moment, because De Goey is, you can't ignore what he's producing. Great numbers. Adam Treloar was back and arguably the Pies' best player. 26 touches, 2 goals. Very impressive. But 2 other mids I want to talk about in the Pies, Taylor Adams and Steele Sidebottom. I seriously reckon one of them could be a really, really good point of difference this season. Which one would I pick? I'd go with Sidebottom, but Adams could come out and average, 105 plus, I feel. A bit like back in the day when Beams was at the club and everyone talked about Swan and Pendlebury, but Beams was just as good. Look, Sidebottom and Adams are really mounting their case and could not go up a level because they've been good players, but just really slightly go up that category to week in, week out elite players. So a couple of players to look at there. James Aish came in the last quarter, just the 3 touches, didn't do too much, so didn't get great opportunity, mind you. Tom Liberatore didn't do a great deal either. 14 disposals. He was quiet, but no alarm bells there. Don't have to stress about that. I mean, he'll be locked away in everyone's side if you've got half a brain, and for good reason. Jason Johannesson, 33 disposals. He just got on the end of it so well. I think about 28 of those were uncontested, I think. But 82% disposal efficiency. Great using of the pill. And he should be considered. I do not think I'll be going with him because doesn't have the runs on the board. Slightly riskier than some other options in the backline. But I do often say if you're going to take a risk on a mid-price guy, the backline is probably the position I'd want to be doing it, because there's less absolute premiums there for us to choose from. So, one to consider. And Marcus Adams also had 14 touches, 8 contested, and he played on Cloak, held him to 2 goals. But regardless of what Cloak did, it shows me that he did a reasonable job, was handed the role, and obviously the coaching staff has faith in him in playing that sort of a role. And I think he could be getting a round 1 chance. He's certainly doing all the right things. So, few players there that should be on your list, no doubt. Fremantle and Geelong. The Cats just got pipped there. Dockers came back nicely. Barlow again had 20. I don't even have to say it. He dominates each week. I think I've said it every week. Just do yourself a favour and lock him in. Harley Bennell played about half the game. 58% time on ground. 17 touches. Kicked a goal. I think he was named, if he wasn't the Dockers best on the website, he was named in the top couple. So that was interesting. But he's going to be slightly underdone, especially for season proper, so be wary of that. But I think he may be eased in, and while he is a great prospect, I think given his pre-season, he could be the perfect upgrade target. Might have a slowish start if pre-seasons are anything to go by, and he could be a nice guy to jump on in that first month or so of the season. So, one to look out for there. As for the Cats, Nakai Cockatoo was in quite a few sides that I was seeing. He won't be anymore because he'll be out for the first 2 weeks with that aggressive tackle slinging him down there. So cop the ban, disappointing for the Cats and Cockatoo there. Mark Blicavs, you can get him in the ruck and he's going to produce some serious midfield numbers. He's a tackling machine, had 12 of them to go along with 17 touches, just a few hit outs, but also had 9 clangers, which is interesting. Normally really good with the ball and uses it very well. Also, that's a bit of an anomaly. I wouldn't expect those sort of clangers from him in this normal season, but look, he tackles so well. And if you really like Blicavs and think he could produce sort of 105 plus, get him in the ruck. That's a really good option. Jimmy Bartel just had the 6 touches early. Then he went off with the head knock. Just precaution from the Cats, I think. We don't want to be risking Jimmy, especially pre-season. I like him as an option in the back line, no doubt. So he'll be a player I'm considering for sure. Hasn't had a great pre-season, so I don't think he'll be in too many teams. And look, Bartel, former gun midfielder, knows how to score points. Could be a point of difference. Moving on to the Hawks in North Melbourne, where the Roos copped a bit of a hiding a bit. They lost by 45 points there. Sam Mitchell absolutely running amok. He was dominant with 45 touches, just huge numbers. Not going to consider him at all, but gee whiz, it's worth a mention. 45 touches, very impressive. Josh Gibson would have caught a few eyes though. 31 touches, 5 tackles, 87% disposal efficiency. That's exactly what he can do if he's left off the leash. He can run around, find plenty of the ball, dish it off nicely. He's a nice, neat kick. And look, you can get him in the back line. He is a bit pricier than other years, but I've seen him in a few teams, and rightfully so, because I think it could be a handy option. Bear in mind the fact he may be asked to do a little bit more tight checking at times, especially with Lake out of the side. So that is worth really taking a look at and how the Hawks are going to use Gibson. But the real story out of that game was definitely Daniel Wells. So good to see him back and great to see him racking up the ball as well. 24 touches, 12 contested and a goal, 10 clearances as well. Outstanding. And you just can't ignore him now. Yes, his body's failed him in the past. He's struggled to get on the ground. He's been inconsistent at times throughout his career. But as far as I'm concerned, you got to lock him in now. His pre-season's been very good. He's got through it. You got to pay the 240k and risk it. If he goes down round 1, well, so be it. That's just unlucky for him. It's unlucky for us. But what he's produced so far, you got to pick him as far as I'm concerned. He was absolutely brilliant and he'll be in many sides, I think. So not too many players from that game, mind you, but there's plenty out of the Brisbane GWS game. Giants getting the job done there pretty comfortably in the end. Zorko, 25 touches, 13 tackles, racking the ball up. Going very, very well. Could be a slight point of difference in our forward lines as well. But he has been suspended for a week, or at least offered a week ban. It was the last thing that I heard. Now, should that just jump you off the Zorko train? No. If you're liking him, if you've had him in your team whole pre-season, if you've brought him in, you like him what Zorko has to offer, the weekend just enforce that as well. Keep him. It's just 1 week. You don't pick premiums to go on how they go on round 1. You pick them for the whole season. So, yes, that'll be frustrating, but look, if you've got him, if you love what he's delivering, just keep him. You miss the first week, fill him in with a Kerridge or a Simpkin or someone along those lines, a Petrarca. Don't stress. Yeah, you might lose 30 points in round 1. But if you're sold on what Zorko has to offer and you believe he's a top 6 to 8 forward line player, well, don't let that suspension worry you. Just stick to your guns and pick him. So, Steph Martin, again, dominated. 24 touches, 32 hit-outs. I must say his disposal efficiency can let him down at times because he finds at times midfield numbers plus the hit-outs, but he doesn't score sort of your 150, 160, which you would naturally think if you just, add those two up like ruckman numbers, midfield numbers, you'd be scoring huge points. But what lets him down is his slightly poor ball use at times, but I think he'll again be a top 3 or 4 ruckman in the competition, so he was very impressive. Daniel Rich back in the midfield. The midfield role beckons, especially with Dane Beams out indefinitely, but Rich was fantastic, found plenty of the ball. He's a beautiful kick, and I've had him on the team for about a month, or I think I've had him almost since Supercoach opened, but as soon as I saw those midfield roles coming his way, I've locked him in. So, as I said, Dane Beams out indefinitely. How does that affect Supercoach? Well, not too much. It'll allow Rich to get a definite role in the midfield, which I think was going to happen anyway. Rockcliffe doesn't affect him. He might cop a bit more attention, but he wins so much of his inside ball anyway. What it does do is give a Jansen or a Keys an opportunity, so definitely that will help them out for our rookie-ended players. Reece Matheson I would have put in that sentence as well until he was cleaned up by Jeremy Cameron and he's fractured his cheekbone. So Cameron, I think he'll cop heavy numbers. I think it's been sent straight to the tribunal. I initially thought a month. It could be worse if now that he's injured. So definitely with the hit and the injury, I reckon about a month, but you just never know. Regardless, Matheson is out and out of consideration for our Supercoach team, so it's disappointing for him and he won't be an option for us given he'll miss a reasonable length of time. Heath Shaw just continues to do what he does. His fantastic kick, just kicks it more often than not, and I won't be paying the initial price tag for him because he's very expensive for a defender, but if you pick him you can really just relax and he will score great points. So he did it again on the weekend. Josh Kelly, he could be absolutely anything this season. Listen to some of these numbers. 32 touches, 14 contested, 8 clearances, 6 inside 50s, and 2 goals. 380k in the midfield. It doesn't get much more awkward than that. If he was in the forward line, you'd almost consider him. But he's going to offer up a real midfield role by the looks of it. He's all class, does it inside and outside. Gee, I mean, we talk about Nick Graham and a lot of people having him in their side. You can mount the same sort of case for Kelly, but I will mount the same case for myself and not pick them because they're simply too awkwardly priced for mine with the risk that is attached to them. So, but nonetheless, he could average 3 figures, I think, because could be a big mover in that Giants midfield. Toby Green was pretty good again, 24 touches, the 3 clearances. His kicking and disposal use in general lets him down at times. He only had the 6 contested possessions, but still, only had 4 clangers and only about a 60% disposal efficiency. Finding it and winning the ball is what he does well. Distributing it, not as well. So, but I think he's done enough to lock himself into our teams because he's had a pretty handy NAB challenge format there. And look, Jack Steele as well. You won't be picking him, but geez, a Jet. You might be able to sneak him into your draft side or something like that later in the picks because he could slide through, but he's a fantastic player. And again, like Kelly, like maybe a Whitfield, could be a real mover of the Giants midfield. Melbourne had a great win over the St Kilda Footy Club there. 2 teams that are probably evenly poised in their prospects for this season, but the D's have been fantastic through the pre-season, winning all 3 games. So plenty of hope for the Melbourne Footy Club coming in this season, which has been a stark contrast to the last few years. So good for the D's. Unfortunately, they don't really offer us too much in Supercoach world because a lot of their players sort of medium level price range. They're absolute guns. Aren't players we'd really pick in our midfield, like your Nathan Jones, your Vineys, Vince. You probably wouldn't pick them unless you're feeling point a different style and a bit of risk. But Max Gawn is one man you would definitely pick. I think he could be top 2 ruckman for the competition. He has had a great NAB challenge. What did he have on the weekend? Let's have a look here. 10 contested possessions of his 13 touches, 26 sit-outs. And he uses the ball quite nicely for a big man as well. Gets in there, dishes off nicely. So I think Gawn is slightly less expensive as some of your others, your Martins, your Nick Nats, your Goldsteins, of course. So look, he could be a very good pickup for a lot of coaches, and I think I'll be heavily considering him alongside Lobie as well. Clayton Oliver probably booked himself a round 1 spot there. He's had a good NAB challenge, of course the first pick for the D's in the draft there. Looked very good. Haven't seen him in many teams. I've seen a few other players sort of top end drafties in the sides, but not Oliver, and I don't think I think he'll be a reasonable pick. Had the 18 touches, 6 tackles, ready made for AFL footy, I reckon, so look out for him. As for the Saints, Lee Montagna reminded us what he can do. 27 disposals, 10 contested, 5 inside 50s. He'll average well, but as I've said in past videos, and especially the St Kilda preview, I don't think I'll be starting with him, just because there's a slight bit riskier with him. I think he's priced so high that I can see plenty more room for him to drop, so I won't be starting with him, but he can dish up some great numbers, and when he's hot, so certainly one to consider there. Jack Billings, 3 goals, 19 touches. He's a gun on the rise, this man. Could be something special this season, but I will not be picking him. I just think he's more of your forward option. I don't think he's going to get too much midfield time. As a player, I think he's unbelievable and be a great player this season. As a Supercoach scorer, I think he could be somewhat of a roller coaster. I think he'll dish up some 120s, but equally some 60s, maybe even in the 50s. I just think that comes with the role. as well as the inexperience. So something to consider there. Jade Gresham did his chances for round 1, no harm at all. Only played the 38% time of the game, but he had 11 touches and was pretty impressive. Would he go there? 91% disposal efficiency. Great using by the young man, and could get a round 1 berth for the Saints. Moving on to our final game, West Coast and Essendon. Eagles smashing the Bombers by 105 points in what is a bit of a disturbing reminder of how bad the Bombers could be this season, but a reminder of how modern footy is as well. West Coast only had 9 more touches than the Bombers. Unbelievable in a 3-figure smashing. But look, Priddis, again, another strange thing in the world we live in. It's consistent, everything about Priddis. He is consistent in winning the ball, and us as super coaches are consistent in not picking him. I hardly see him in any teams, but again, he racks up the ball, he wins a Brownlow, backs it up again last year. He's had a great pre-season, contested this, clearance that. Still, no one wants to pick him. It's unbelievable. I know he's got a price tag to him. I must say, I am not picking him this season either, but it's a funny little thing, and if you want him to be a point of difference, he's all yours, because still, people will not pick him. It's unbelievable. Elliot Yeo, again, he was good without being great. Had the 15 touches. Really a game that if you wanted to judge it, you'd have to see it, and I didn't see it. On paper, it looks as though he's probably not doing enough. Having moderate numbers, but I can't see him really getting a berth in our sides now, because he just hasn't had that one game that you go, boom, that is what he can do. So probably not for me, and probably not for many others. Haven't seen him in too many teams of late after he was pretty hot pre-NAB challenge. As for the Bombers, Zaharakis and Merritt were pretty good, 26 and 22 respectively, and of those two I'd certainly be considering Merritt more so. Zaharakis I don't think can offer the upper end of numbers that is needed for a midfielder, but Merritt in the forward line, certainly one to have a look at. Anthony McDonald Tipungwuti was very impressive as well. 16 disposals, 8 marks, 2 tackles. I really think it must be a very good chance for round 1. We can get him at 102k being a rookie, so keep an eye out for the round 1 teams there, because if so, that's a really good buy at 100k there. It's fantastic in forward line and defence, I'm pretty sure, so great stuff for us there. Mitch Brown and Hartley, look, they're going to be consistent, I think. They're not going to come out and rack up the touches and score big numbers, but I think if they're named round 1, which Mitch Brown will be, Hartley I'm pretty confident will be. They had 9 touches each on the weekend. They're not going to set the world on fire, as I mentioned, but I think they'll be consistent scorers. If their job security is good, well, they're hard to ignore, so definitely have a look at them. Stokes was impressive as well. Really caught the eye of the coaching staff there, but you wouldn't pick him. Jonathan Simpkin, he just hasn't done enough for me yet. I know he was good. He was named in the best for the Bombers again, 19 touches, but I'm not too sure. He's in my side at the moment, but I just think he doesn't quite offer that real in-tight stuff. And with a few of the other top-ups in the likes of Kelly, Stokes, we got Polkinghorn as well, Zaharakis, Merritt in the midfield, Cooney's in there, Goddard's in there. Can he consistently deliver sort of around the 80 mark, or will we see sort of 70-ish? Because I know it's a big difference as far as making us coin, especially he's more expensive than a lot of other players in that F5 and F6 position. So few thoughts on Simpkin there. But look, that's the end of my recap on the weekend's events and everything NAB Challenge. Bit of a longer one because we had the full 9 games to review, so hopefully I didn't bore you too much there, but there are plenty of names to consider, and I don't want to skip over any because they're all worth considering. I feel all the ones I talked about, and it's just my 2 cents on all of them. Some of those players I could speak more in-depthly about. I think I might do so in the lead up to round 1. So thanks for your time there, and thanks for listening, guys. Certainly if you've got any feedback on any of the players that I've talked about or any questions you've got for me, shoot them through, and give the video a like as well. Subscribe to the channel. I'm nearly hit 200, which is exciting, so that's great. And also join my league, not the league but the actual Supercoach group. So you can go into the video that was about my subscriber league and you can find the group there. I will be also doing another league, a secondary subscriber league, so stay tuned for that. I will do a video to let you know when it's going to be released. I think it'll probably be next Sunday, but look, I've talked way too much. I've kept babbling on. It's been a long video. I hope you've stayed tuned and I hope you've learned something, so subscribe to the channel and I'll catch you guys soon.